What's up, boys and girls? Welcome once again to the Bass, Kayak, and Beers podcast on the Paddle and Fit Network. Let's see, last week's episode with Fluke Master. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you haven't listened to it, go ahead and listen to it. I do have to apologize. It was actually my first episode recorded this year. Like, I know I had already a few episodes coming out this year, but they were recorded last year. This one was actually recorded... the one with Fluke Master, Gene Jensen, was actually recorded this year. And I must have messed up my mic settings, so I know my voice might have been blown out. So the quality on my end was not that good. So I apologize for any of you that listened to it. If you haven't listened to it, you can still check it out. I mean, it's not that bad. And it's great information from Gene Jensen. I mean, a lot of great information that Gene Jensen shared on that episode. But just want to start off apologizing about that last week's audio. This week, I got another special guest, as always, Silas Garrett. He just won the Southeast Texas Kayak Bass League. I hope I got that right. And it was the first one this year. It was in Fayette, Power Plant Lake. So we're going to be talking about Silas, about his big win, and how he accomplished it. And we're going to be talking about fishing on Power Plant Lakes in winter. That's something that I'm not used to, and I know it can be very different. Fayetteville last year, or Fayetteville, I keep saying that. Lake Fayette last year, I think, was a great tournament as far as numbers-wise, and I'll have to ask Silas about this, but I think it was like there were guys putting up like 104, 105 inches, something like that. And I think he took part in that tournament too. But anyway, Silas was here last year. He won Fairfield. And I think it was also for the Southeast Texas Kayak Bass League tournament. So I'm glad to have him back again. It's another great angler in Texas. I know I'm biased because I'm from Texas, but we really do have some amazing anglers here. And it is hard to get a win. It is hard to stand out in Texas when it comes to tournament fishing. So happy to have him on. Happy that he won. Again, great angler, great person to talk to, great guest. Always enjoys having conversation with Silas, especially when he's on the show. As far as my week goes, if you hear me a little bit congested, that's because I'm probably going through COVID. I'm still waiting for the test results. I've had COVID, let's see, today's Thursday. I've had COVID since Sunday evening, or at least flu-like since Sunday evening. I've never had a flu-like symptoms for this prolonged time, so it really sucks. I don't wish it upon anybody, so everybody out there stay safe. Hopefully at some point this crap will be over. But yeah, I'll do my best to keep focused on the show and still bring you great content. And I'll rely heavily on Silas' personality and knowledge on this one. So since I'm going to be a little bit congested here throughout the episode. So anyways, thank you again for joining us. Before we bring Silas, big shout out to my sponsor, Douglas Rod. Go to douglasoutdoors.com to check out their full lineup and their amazing rods. So we'll go to a quick commercial, bring Silas back in. What's going on, buddy? How's it going?
What's up, man? Doing all right?
Pretty good, man. Happy to have you back on the show, man.
Heck yeah.
Big congratulations on your big win.
Yeah, thank you.
I always mispronounce that lake. I don't know why. It's because I work at the airport, and I'm always thinking of Fayette. I always say Fayetteville, because that's one of the destinations we fly to. So that name always comes up. The lake is Fayette, right?
Yeah, Fayette. Yep.
Always get that confused. The Power Plant Lake, man. Tell us about your big win. First of all, man, how are you comfortable feeling on those Power Plant Lakes in winter?
I mean, Fayette in general, generally fish is always pretty good. I mean, any time of the year, they're always running the power plant. You can kind of catch them however you want to. I mean, most days. You know, you can go out there, flip shallow reeds. It has hydrilla. Of course, everybody knows about the offshore bite there. Yeah, just fish your strengths type of lake.
You fished that tournament or that lake last year in a tournament, right?
Yeah.
And I think I'm trying to remember if it was the Southeast Texas Kayak Bass League. God, that's a long name. Or the TKC, which is also hosted by Chris Morales.
Yeah,
one of those two ones, which I can't remember. And if I remember correctly, I think it was a great turnout as far as numbers wise goes. Like there's still like I think it was like the top two or three got over 300. I mean 300 over. Well, yeah, with 300, but over 100 each one, something like that. You remember?
Yeah, I mean, I've we kind of start on that lake every year, so like 40
Yeah.
days in a row, we've been there in January, and just about every year it takes 100 inches to win.
It's a great lake. It doesn't get a lot of recognition nationally on tournaments like let's say Fork or OHIV, which actually blowing up, and even Possum Kingdom. But it is really a local lake that it produces big bass. From what I've heard of, I've never fished it. I'm dying to go fish it, especially on winter. What is what's the big difference fishing like a normal lake to a power plant lake when it relates to winter?
So relating to winter, most lakes right now in Texas, we kind of had like the winter was slow to start.
Mhm.
So it's just now water temps are starting to drop everywhere. Now Fayette, its water temps are still in like 65. Maybe low 60s on a really cold day. But from what I could tell, they're either have just spawned or slightly post spawn at Fayette right now.
Really,
Yeah, I was actually seeing fry in the reeds.
really, wow.
Yeah. So I don't know if all of them have spawned yet, but I know at least one round has gone up there and spawned.
Wow. Yeah, maybe not the masses that usually, go through phases, start off, and then goes to that middle section where it's like most of them are spawning and then starts trickling off. But
Yeah.
that's crazy, man. In January, and I can't even imagine in the and I guess that's why it's so productive late because I mean those fish, those bass can feed literally all year long. Like they don't go to winter hibernation unless it's something like last year, when we had that snowmageddon, and maybe something like that would get them into a week or two of winter hibernation. But for the most part, they're not going through winter hibernation. I would imagine. I'm no marine biologist or expert on the science of bass, right? But I mean that's what makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of fish in that lake and a lot of bait. So, I mean, there's gizzard shad there that are, 14 inches long and every kind of species you want to, as far as bait.
So, what to you was the key for to winning the tournament? Like, what did you start? Let's start from the beginning of the day to the end of the day. What did you saw in pre-fishing? If you got a chance to pre-fish, what did you start it with? First of all, let's talk about that. What was your first bait of choice?
Yeah, so I kind of actually figured the wind was going to come shallow. I had gotten out there maybe about 2-3 weeks ago, and I was catching not fish on beds, but you know, uh, big girls roaming by the reeds. If I could find a little bit of grass, that was like more of the ticket. So I kind of went on Sunday with the ambition to flip reeds and maybe throw a chatterbait in the grass.
And
Um,
that's go ahead. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
that was the main goal for me. Of course, whenever I got there, stuff kind of changed a little bit. But um, anyways, yeah. So I started off shallow. I was thinking shallow. I was actually throwing a chatterbait. Kind of on maybe like the back third of a little pocket.
Hmm.
Throwing a chatterbait, and what was weird is they weren't hitting it whenever I was reeling fast. It wasn't like a cadence thing, but if I would pull that thing all the way up to the surface and just kill it, they were like hitting it right next to the boat. So I was actually, some they would actually grab it, and some they would just nip the back and then go. So uh, that morning I had like maybe 3 20-inch fish bite, but I'd only landed one, and so I was kind of frustrated in the morning, to say the least. But that kind of like started dying off midday, and so I just started thinking, okay, well let's go find the ones that like on secondary points, and maybe fish that are either moving up or have just moved off, type of pattern. So I just scanned for, I mean, literally hour and a half, before I really found something that looked good. And all it was a single little blob sitting on the bottom, and it was about an 18-foot of water. So I just threw a jig in there, and sure enough, caught a 15-incher. I was like, okay, this is something. Released that fish real quick, threw back in, and literally as soon as my jig hit the water, I got bit, and it was a 21-incher. And so, of course, at that point, I was like, all right, it's game on. And yeah, just started looking on my graph, and once again, I was sitting out in the deeper water, but I kept on noticing that my bites were coming on the like so there. I was sitting next to a shelf. It was sitting in about 10 foot of water. I'm sitting in 18. Well, most of my bites were coming on top of the shelf. Well, the wind had been pushing me that way the whole time anyway, so I ended up just drifting on top of that shelf. And sure enough, all the fish were just stacked right there in that 10-foot range. And yeah, just kind of threw the whole arsenal at them. Everything from the spoon. Ended up throwing a crankbait at the end to get my big bite. Yeah, just threw everything I could until they stopped biting, type thing.
So it sounds like you got a nice school of fish or a nice group of fish that were staging up for spawning soon.
I think,
That's what it sounds to me.
yeah, yeah.
And the first group of bass that you got on the chatterbait or you targeted on the chatterbait, it kind of seems like from what you're describing, and again, I like to share knowledge and maybe this help out some other people. And you let me know what you think you saw. But it sounds like that first group of bass that you targeted with the chatterbait that were kind of like just nipping at the tail end of that chatterbait. It was more of a maybe spawning bass. They were just because by the size of it, you're saying they were like 20-inch bass. So that makes me think those are big females or kind of getting ready for spawn. They're out, maybe they're already at their beds, and they're just kind of like not committing to eating, just kind of like being aggressive towards annoying fish. They don't want more of a defensive mechanism, right? They're just trying to scare off any potential predators for their eggs. That's what it sounded like. Do you feel that's what happened with those at the beginning?
Yeah, absolutely. I think they were 100% just guarding their territory and kind of like staking their claim. And so anything that got close, they were trying to basically just, how during spawn, if you're bed fishing, they'll pick up a bait and just run
Yeah.
it, 2, 3 foot away and drop it. That's almost what they were kind of doing.
Yeah, and maybe they weren't doing it that much because of it's a chatterbait, so they, versus throwing maybe like a weightless fluke. Well, they'll just hold it and throw it. A chatterbait it's going to be harder because obviously it's going to move faster and all that. Did you recognize that as an issue, and that's why you decided to say like, okay, this is spawning bass, or let me just move? They're not interested in feeding. Let me just move. Did you recognize that immediately, or was it something else that made you make that change?
Yeah, I mean, I ran that pattern probably, first thing in the morning until about noon, and it just wasn't paying off enough,
Yeah.
and then plus you got 100 other guys on the water. A lot of guys are fishing some of the same stuff, kind of like nobody was on top of each other, but still you couldn't hit any fresh fish. And I think that them being fresh in the first couple lures that they saw, that was kind of like the big deal. So I ended up abandoning it just because I didn't feel like I was going to be able to catch 100 inches shallow with all the people on the water. I think they were there. I think, if you had the lake all to yourself, yeah, you could have stayed shallow and you definitely could have caught 100 inches.
That's interesting because that's where experience in tournament fishing comes, and that's a big difference, right? When you talk about experience in fishing for yourself for fun, and then experience in managing a tournament, and that's two different things. You can be a great angler, but to manage situations like you just said, you are out on the shallow water, there's other anglers there, the fish are more pressured. That changes your game completely because now it's not about catching fish, it's adapting and catching the biggest five fish. And that's a really interesting point, and I've slowly learned that there's a learning curve from being able to catch fish to being able to catch winning fish on a tournament. You know, a good fisherman, a good kayak angler will catch you 5 fish. A good tournament angler gonna get you those 5 biggest fish. And I think on this tournament you can see that. I mean, when you look at the leaderboard, just like yourself, guys that I'm sorry, not long. That's not what I meant to say. Guys that not just know how to fish, but how to manage a tournament, right? So you guys not just know how to catch 5 fish, you know how to target those big fish. Because it could have been easily any unexperienced tournament angler like myself would have said, well, I got 3 bites, it's early on, maybe I can get something out of it, I just need to work on it. Versus an experienced tournament angler would say, this is the situation. A lot of anglers here on the water in this section. I need to move out and find something because I'm not going to be able to catch the numbers that I need. And we saw that a lot of out in this tournament. I know a lot of anglers got a nice, 70-inch limit right off the bat, but that's not what's going to win you the tournament. And that's a big difference, from being a guy or girl that knows how to catch fish versus a guy or girl tournament angler that knows how to catch the biggest 5 fish. When you look at the names, going back to that, Caleb Helbig was there, Timothy Rodman was there, all of you guys that I know, and there were other names of there on the top of that list. I'm just not familiar with them, so I can't speak as to their tournament knowledge. But I know you, I know Timothy, and I know Caleb, and I know you guys are experienced and know how to target those 5 fish. And I think that's something that comes with time. Me personally learning, being in my third year into tournament fishing, that's something that I'm like, okay, I can catch 5 fish. Now can I catch the biggest 5 fish? That's a big difference.
Yeah, I think you nailed it on the head. I mean, I think it just comes with a little bit of experience. I think I'm on my 4th year fishing kayak tournaments, so I've been able to watch some of the great guys go out there and consistently place in the top, and generally they're doing something a little bit different than the crowd. Yeah, you can kind of follow the crowd if everybody's going to beat the bank, to catch 5 fish. Yeah, you might have a medium-sized limit, but the guys that find that outlying pattern, that nobody else is really fishing, and then they can duplicate it in multiple spots. That's generally what gets them 5 good fish.
Yeah, that's something that you can't learn overnight. I don't care how many YouTube videos you want, because it's gonna change in any particular lake. That strategy is gonna, it's not gonna translate to every single lake that you go to, and it comes with the pre-fishing, the knowledge, and all that. So that's great information. What is it about a power plant lake that you target versus a non-power plant lake in winter? If Fayette wasn't a power plant lake, how would that change your approach on that lake on the same time of year?
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't a power plant lake and we had, same kind of conditions as far as like the wind direction and all
Mhm.
that stuff, I probably would have just left the shallow fish alone. I mean, I think there's a majority of people that do know that yes, you can catch shallow fish in the winter, but generally the bigger groups are going to be somewhere offshore, and I just say offshore as deeper than maybe 10 foot and a little bit off the bank. Um, you know, uh, so for Fayette, especially, I would have just gone straight to some secondary points and just followed the points until I actually found a group of fish. Um, kind of judging how far back they are. Okay, are they at the main lake, or are they further back in the pocket on a secondary point, or yeah,
Kind of lost your audio for a second there. I think you might have gotten a call or something. Think you're muted, Silas. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Silas? Hmm.
Working?
Yeah, I got two of you now. I don't know why. Hold up.
Oops.
Let me remove. There we go.
There
Got
we
it.
Yeah, I got a phone call and it booted me out.
No worries, man. I'll just take a note of it. 19 second. Um. So yeah, that's really interesting. How a power plant, like, completely changes the game just because of the warm water. How close do you fish to the warm water that's coming up? Because that warm water, I mean, that's coming like, I how warm does it come out? Come out like that's almost like 100 degrees, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's really warm. I never fish over there because it is kind of a popular spot to fish by the discharge. But I want to say I've been back there before. Might have been like 70, 80 degrees on a day like Sunday.
Wow. And the dead of winter.
Yeah, in the dead of winter, and I mean, like I said, a lot of guys fish over there, so I just leave it alone. Once again, I always try to find something that's not very popular, kind of my own pattern, so I can stick on it and really be thorough in my approach.
And that's worked out for you from what I've seen over the last, I mean, at least from since I started following you on tournament scene, when you won, I think it was Fairfield you won
Yeah,
last year.
second, but
Yeah.
yeah, Tim got,
Oh yeah. Timothy Rahman, who was using your Wi-Fi, right? Did
yeah,
he use your Wi-Fi this year?
no, he did. Hey, but whenever he got back to the ramp at Fayette,
Yeah.
he's like, "How'd you do?" And I didn't want to tell him, and he said, "Well, I got 98," and I was like, "Well, that's it." I was trying to one up him after Fairfield. He ended
Yeah,
up
I know.
placing third at Fayette, so
Yeah, and I've heard that he struggles a lot in Fayette. I think that's what I saw in the comments section. So I don't know if how true that is, but it might have been
I,
something that he
I'm
struggled with.
I know we go out there and fun fish a lot, and he's always wrecking them. So, it's just one of those things where you have that one tournament lake that just kind of gets you. I mean, really, Fairfield is that way with me. I can go out there a lot of times and catch a good bag. Tournament rolls around, and it's like I struggle. I don't know what's up with that.
Yeah, that's another great lake. I know we talked about it last year um, on the Texas Wildlife Department. When you look at what they say, it's good, excellent lake. I think their table is excellent, good, average, and below average, and they always put like Fairfield on like below average bass fishing lake. And it's funny because it's totally not. Somebody's paying for that.
Yeah. I hope they keep that as
Yeah, keep that.
yeah.
There's some big bass at that lake Fairfield. Is Fayette your favorite lake to fish, or do you have
Uh,
another favorite?
no, it's a lake that I like a lot. It's probably at least my top five. I would probably say that Fairfield's probably my first. Man, there's so many good lakes. I mean, I like Lake Fork,
Yeah,
Nacogdoches, uh, anything with a little bit of grass and maybe a little bit of timber. I like it a lot.
nice. What's your least favorite lake on the tournament schedule this year for
Oh,
the Southeast Texas Kayak Bass League?
my least favorite, which I'm kind of lucky I'm gonna have to skip, but is the Sabine River is
Oh yeah.
on the tournament schedule this year. But my wife's pregnant and due in May,
Oh, congratulations.
right in that time. So
Nice.
I'll
That's
get.
good. That's gonna be your personal best now,
Oh
right?
yeah, absolutely.
First child.
No, this is my third.
Oh, nice. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah, Sabine River. I haven't fished that. Where now Sabine River? That actually fits Lake Fork, right?
No, that's the San Angelo, I think.
San Angelo. Okay.
Yeah. The Sabine is like on the coast of Louisiana and Texas.
No.
Uh,
Okay.
yeah, it's like I think it's brackish water. It has salt water and fresh water in it.
That's gonna be interesting. I think tidal waves are gonna play a big part. Like how close to on that lake, the territory that's gonna be allowed to fish. How close is it to the coast, or
I
is it
think
gonna
it's
be
pretty
more?
darn close. I haven't
Okay.
really looked at the boundaries just because I kind of knew I was already going to miss it. But um, yeah, I know it can be real tough fishing. So
Yeah, it could be. I can see somebody like Dustin Nichols, who's very familiar with that area, play a big role
oh yeah, he's
on the
probably.
tournament.
I feel like he's going to win it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, the Dudu is I would pick him for favorite, but yeah, that's very different lake from what most of us here in Texas are fishing. Well, at least this side of Texas. I know you guys Southeast Texas. You probably some of the anglers out there probably used to fish in that area, but yeah, up here North Texas or even Central or West Texas, that's not something they're going to be familiar with. Other than the local trails, Southeast Texas Kayak Bass League, what other local trails are you fishing, or just that one?
Yeah, so I'm keeping my tournament schedule kind of light this year.
Right.
Like I said, I am having a newborn, so I tried to squeeze in as many as I could, but really it's just the Southeast Texas Trail. I might make it to a couple North Texas tournaments. I'm going to do the Bass event at Lake Fork coming up
Nice.
in February. Of course, then we have the Hobie that's going to be on Toledo Bend the second
Yeah.
weekend in February. That also correlates with the Southeast Texas
Yep.
tournaments. So I'm going to make those, but primarily it's just going to be Southeast Texas this year.
Nice. So you're gonna be fishing the Hobie?
Yeah.
Nice, man. I'm hoping everything works out good. God willing, I'll be there as well. That's gonna be interesting. I just heard there's gonna be a boat tournament there as well that weekend.
Of course.
So you guys, and then Bass Nation for Louisiana is doing the same thing. They're gonna kind of merge it with Hobie, same as Southeast
Oh,
Texas Kayak Bass League. So man, that's gonna be packed. Like, thank God it's such a huge lake. But I'm wondering. I think I'm looking at. I'm already doing the studying maps, and I'm thinking this is one of those lakes where you might have to go to plan A, B, C, D, E, F, because you might think you have the sweet spot, but then again you're gonna have the guys from the Hobie BOS, guys from the Southeast Texas Kayak Bass League, and guys from the Bass Nation Louisiana chapter fishing. Although I think they're gonna have to stay on the Louisiana side, and I have to ask Chris Morales because I wanted to do it in conjunction also with Southeast Texas Kayak Bass League. Gotten used to saying that, can't believe it. Um, but is it only on Texas side that you can fish for that to qualify for the Southeast?
if I'm not mistaken, you can fish any side. I think the only prerequisite is that you have to have a Louisiana fishing license if you
Yeah.
belong on the Louisiana side.
Okay, because I vaguely remember reading something about the rules, and I thought it said that you only fish the Texas side. And for me, it was like, well, if big thing is fishing the Hobie, if I fish on the Louisiana side, then it's not gonna call out, work well. But if you can fish both sides of it, which I think you will, like you said, then that makes it different. But yeah, it's gonna be interesting. That's gonna be very, very interesting
Yeah, that's going to be a
tournament.
fun tournament for sure.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of big groups, and a lot of a chance to meet a lot of people and kind of like grow and get knowledge and talk to other people and see what they find and all that. Probably it's going to be after the tournament, but a lot of good information can be shared afterwards. Makes everybody a better angler. What tournament or what lake are you most looking forward this year to fish?
I mean, honestly, even before the Fayette tournament, I was pretty excited about Lake Fork.
Yeah,
I'm going with like a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. Um, I'm not sure if you saw last year, but last year for Lake Fork, I started the day with like 80 inches and 4 fish. That was like all caught in the first hour. And then I
hmm
spent about 7 hours looking for a fifth fish and ended
yeah, it
up
was
being
tough
only like
last
a
year.
12 incher. So I ended up in 12th place, uh, but I had such a great start. If I could have got like I think a 16 and a half inch fish would have got me first, I believe, maybe second, but yeah.
Oh wow. No, it was man. It was a tough tournament last year for the Bass Nation in Fork. I know for me it was. I know for most Texans, other than Guillermo Gonzalez, who I think was the only one that got into the top 10. I think he got into the top five, something like 94, 96 inches. But that was the only Texan in the top 10. Nobody else came close. It was like you would expect that in the top 10 it will be more than half will be some from Texas, especially in Lake Fork. but it wasn't. And I think that Snowmageddon that we had, like, I want to say like a month earlier or maybe more, kind of like took everybody by surprise because none of us here in Texas are kind of used to fishing after such a big snowstorm. Um, and I think what we all thought was going to happen or the bite was going to be was probably the opposite. But yeah, that was kind of disappointing not seeing more Texans on that name. Being from Texas, if I'm not going to win it, I want to see my brothers and sisters from Texas do well. Represent the state. But yeah, it was tough watching that one. This year it's going to be interesting because of the water level being so low. I don't know if that's going to favor a lot of the local talents. I think it might, especially for those that are fishing out there. Because now you can see a lot more. Now you're going to be familiar with spots where you're like, oh, that's what I used to see on the graph. You can actually see it now.
Yeah, get a good hands-on look at everything. Yeah, I think it's going to be it's going to be tough for like most of the field, but I think that there's going to be a good group of people that really get on them good. I think with the lake low, I mean, the rumor is catching fish out of a barrel type thing, but I don't think it'll be that good. But maybe.
Yeah, I've heard people say that. I'm like, I don't know about that.
For sure.
Now, and keep in mind that lake is. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of other boat tournaments because there's always boat tournaments in Lake Fork. I pre-fished it on a Monday for last year's tournament, and there was a boat tournament on a Monday. I'm like, it's not even a holiday. Why is there a boat tournament on a Monday? But the good thing about it this year, last year was kind of like where you expect the spawning bass, and I think you saw a lot of crappie tour guides, targeting crappie. I'm not saying they're crappie. And there was a boat tournament that weekend as well. I think now because it's not expected to be spawning in mid-February, I don't think we're going to get that much of a boat traffic. And I also think because the water level is so low, there's going to be access to some areas that we would have to share with a boat that now we might have actually to ourselves. Downside to that, it's going to be a lot of people breaking their Torquitos, their XIs, their motor guides. If they're pedaling, I mean, they're going to be breaking their Hobie paddles or pedals, their Old Town props style of pedaling. That's going to be a challenge to itself. So one end, I think a lot of boat anglers are going to stay away from it just because they know the dangers of fishing in the area, especially now it's so low. But yeah, I think anybody wants to make money, they can wholesale props for Old Town and Hobie and just have like a sell them at the shore at the boat ramp.
I hadn't ordered 2 extra props. I'm rocking the Old Town Autopilot this year, and went ahead and bought 2 props just for that tournament. I think it's going to be nice because you're not going to have boats maybe buzzing past you. Generally, if you get offshore on those bigger lakes, the boats like to buzz past you. I think maybe with all the timber out, maybe you won't have to.
No, I agree. I think that's going to work out better. But yeah, if you like paddling instead of pedaling, this is your tournament. Because you don't have to worry about bringing your props or your pedals.
Yeah, you're good.
You're good. Anybody with a Crescent? So Drew Gregory with his Crescent kayak probably is going to win it like he always does. That's going to be cool. Other than that, Lake Fork, what else? What are your goals for this year? Is it an angler? You already got your tournament. You're going to be fishing the Hobie BOS. You're going to be fishing the Fork. I imagine those are 2 tournaments you really would like to win and have it as a goal. Like for you, that's actually an attainable goal with your pedigree as a kayak angler. Angler of the year, is that something that you're realistically putting for yourself as a goal this year?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the Southeast Texas Angler of the Year is, there's a lot of good sticks in that group, and but I think with a win already under my belt, maybe I kind of starting off with the a good amount of points. But I'm going to be pushing hard. Generally, they let you drop one tournament, which, of course, like I said, I have to miss Sabine. Um, so it'll be hard. I have to basically compete well in every single tournament to actually capture an Angler of the Year. But I'm going to give it my all.
Nice. And if you qualify for either the Classic at for Bass Nation or the TOC at Hobie BOS, you think you'll be able to get? I mean, it's further down the road. I don't even know if you would qualify for Bass Nation. I think you qualified for 2023 Bass Nation Kayak Series Classic. Wouldn't be the one for this year. So, assuming, let's say you win or you did enough to qualify, that will be, I think, in 2023. If you land in the top 3 in the Hobie BOS, then you qualify for theirs in November in Cattle Lake. Would you think you'd be able to attend that, assuming you get into the top
Yeah, I
3?
mean, that's definitely the goal. I mean, if I can qualify for the Tournament of Champions
Yeah.
for Hobie and stuff like that, yeah. I mean, the downside is I basically only have one tournament to do it on Toledo Bend for Hobie. As far as the Bass Championship, I did qualify for the 2022 championship. I think
Oh, nice.
in March. It's kind of up in the air if I actually make it or not, though. It is about a 15-hour drive. Never been there, type stuff. So, but yes, if I can qualify on Bass or on Lake Fork for Bass for the 2023, I think next year will be a year that I can actually compete in a little bit more national tournaments. Not having a newborn or anything.
Definitely, yeah. Because I know there's a lot of stress and a lot of things that go in, that you have to take in consideration with the expectation of the new arrival. How do you manage your time, with your work, family time, to actually being putting time on the water? How hard it is for you to fish or put time on the water?
I mean, that's a pretty good question there. So I actually just went back to being self-employed in October, at the very end of October, November. Me and Tim have Volta Lithium. We've been pushing batteries. We build them right here in this office right here. So this year we kind of took a leap. We ordered a whole bunch of stock, and hopefully that should be arriving like within the next couple of weeks. Um, so right now I'm kind of just waiting on that. I've worked as a mechanic, body shop type stuff all my life, so I'm kind of filling in the gaps with mechanic work until I can actually push Volta as hard as I need to. But as far as the balance there, being a little bit self-employed right now, I am able to kind of sneak off in the middle of the week, while the kids are at school, the wife's working, and that kind of makes it a little bit easier. Last year I worked at a body shop and we had a hailstorm come through, so it was pretty much, balls to the wall
Yeah.
the whole year. So I wasn't able to fish as much, but this year, definitely able to get out there during the week is a big plus.
Yeah, man, having that flexibility, that's something that right now decisions are being made here in my household with my work, because right now I'm not this week because I'm with COVID, but prior to that, it's like working 16 hours, not 16 hours, I'm sorry, exaggerating, like 12-hour days, 3 or 4 times a week. And they actually wanted me to take a training at midnight. I'm like, for 2 weeks, I'm like, you think I'm going to spending 10 days without actually seeing my family? Because the time I get home, they're sleeping. The time I get up, they're already gone. I'm like,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen. And we're at that stage now where it's like, I've lived more than half my life, and, to just it's take too much, to spend too much time at work and less time with the wife and the family and everything else that I love, like kayak fishing. So, man, props to you for starting your own business. I hope it works out. You said you're going to do like Volta batteries. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's called Volta Lithium, is a
Oh, okay.
brand name. Yeah, we already sell lithium batteries. Um, we're kind of changing
Nice.
up our style a little bit this year, but um, like I said, once again, we actually build them right here. Of course, everybody has to buy their supply from China,
Yeah.
India, and Pakistan, and everything like that. But we actually get hands on with it and try to build a product that maybe matches everybody else's price, but you're getting more bang for your buck because, you know, it's me and Tim. We're looking at every single, spot weld on the battery. We're putting it all together. The time and quality that we're putting into these packs, I think is going to be the big kicker for us compared to, maybe most of the other suppliers just buying a pre-built package from, they'll say engineered or designed.
Yeah.
They're just buying some factory
Fancy words. Yeah.
is making it and sending it over here, and they have no idea how it works internally. So
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I interrupted.
no, I was done.
No, that's interesting. And for those out there listening, if you're looking for lithium battery, go check them out, because I think it's something that to consider when you're buying anything, but especially mentioning about batteries, is like it's gonna be you and Tim, which kind of like hands-off approach to um each battery, building each battery versus companies that mass produce. When you mass produce, I don't care what company you are, quality suffers. That's just the way it is. It's more about putting product out there and getting income than actually building a quality product, which the return is going to be minimal. But because it's your operating costs, it's simpler. Just you and Tim. You don't have to worry about you know um, other things that big
That
companies have
math,
to worry about.
right?
Yeah. So it's you gives you more liberty to focus on the product and build a quality product. And I think anybody that's out there listening looking for lithium batteries, there you go. Now it's going to be lithium batteries that could work for a kayak, to power your Taquito, your IX3, your fish finders.
Yeah. So our current batteries that we sell are their peak voltage is actually 16.8 volts, which we recommend that for electronics. Um, Now you might say, well, almost 17 volts. How does that work? Well, if you go back and check with all the manufacturers, everybody allows up to about 18 volts to power your electronics. Now, this is kind of this is a hearsay thing here, but uh, I believe that whenever you supply that little bit of extra voltage, I'm able to maybe turn up my gain a little bit more, or have benefits that maybe the lower voltage doesn't have. Once again, that's not proven in science or anything like that, but I believe it to be true. The other part there is the higher voltage makes it to where, if let's say a Helix 10 uses 1 amp an hour at 12 volts. Well, at 16 volts, it's going to use zero point 0.8 amps, so it's actually using less amperage. So you're getting more life out of it. So a 16.8 volt 45 amp hour versus a 12 volt 45 amp hour, the 16.8 will actually last, about 25% longer.
Nice.
So
Yeah, you looking to sponsor podcasts? Because I'm
yeah,
available.
right.
I just needed one for the fish finder, man. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
But no, we wish you the best with that, man. That's pretty awesome. That's great knowledge on battery there. That's a little bit of nugget information right there that I did not expect to be getting. So props to you for sharing that information. There's something for my audience that they can take away when deciding to buy a battery. And of course, go check out Voltage. You have a website or a way to contact you if anybody's interested?
Yeah, voltalithium.com. You can find us on our website. We also have a Facebook page. Generally, if you send us a message, it's going to be me or Tim replying. So, not some random, call filter or something like that. It's us.
No problem, man. That's awesome. Congratulations on building your own business, man, and moving forward. And always count with us here at Paddle and Fin and Bass Kayak and Beers podcast to help you in any way promoting your products. Be more than honored to help one of our own, not just in Texas, but kayak anglers, build their business, especially when the business actually benefits the kayak fishing community. So props to you on that, and we wish you the best moving forward. Now, Silas, I've gotten you for about 45 minutes or so. I know, like you said, you're a businessman, and you're a family man, and you also like to spend time on the water. I don't want to take you too much of your time. I want to give you a few minutes to thank who you wanted to thank and do your shameless plug. We already talked about Volta, but is anybody else any sponsorships that you like to thank? Family members, anybody else? Just take your time.
Yeah, I definitely want to thank all my sponsors. Kistler Rods, as well as Exotic Rods. Um,
You
you know,
got two rod sponsors.
Two
Wow.
rod sponsors. Yeah, I'll be honest that Kistler Z-Bone that I had, that jig bite from Sunday, it was just a little bit of a nip most of the time, and without a sensitive rod, I don't know if I'd have been able to feel that. And so I definitely give them props. Breakline Fishing Co., which is an apparel sponsor, man, they're always sending me clothes. You can't fish without wearing the right sun protective gear, and that really makes a difference. Obviously, Volta Lithium. Want to thank my family for being able to support me and let me chase after my dreams. I think most of us out here have played sports or whatnot throughout high school and all that stuff. And once you get out, it's just the big world. But most of us find love in kayak fishing and being able to actually chase after that. And definitely appreciate my family for supporting me. And yeah, thank you to all my friends, and yeah, love all the support.
No problem, man. Thank you for coming to the show. Glad to have you back again. Hopefully, we'll get to talk to you again soon. And for those out there listening, thank you for listening to the Bass Kayak and Beers podcast. Remember, go check out my sponsor, Douglas Rock. Go to douglasoutdoors.com.